Mike and Mike's off-air podcast. Mike Pesto.
And Mike O'Neill here from the new My 97.5.
So before we get rolling, and we may spend a lot of time talking about this, I'm not sure, but how's your son doing?
My son is doing all right. Gosh, I mean, I've lived in the South Valley since 1996, and I was aware of valley fever, just like you're aware of Lyme disease or other things that you know are out there, but we haven't had anyone that's had it. Well, Sean, my son, bam, hit him right between the eyes and actually right in the lungs, and ended up with pneumonia and was in the hospital for 2 weeks. Home now, recovering, great. Hands high kudos to Kaweah Health for turning him around and getting him right where he needs to be back home. And he has specialists that are watching, and slowly but surely he's becoming Sean again. And I mean, he's in the car right now, rolling with my wife, picking up my grandson, and doing fine. But on oxygen, he was off oxygen most of the day yesterday, and he'll be off again at some point today. But it's just a process, man. It's just a process to get back from this damn thing.
That's really affected his pulse rate, from what you said.
Yeah, in fact, that's what one of the doctors was telling us. Like we learned back in 2020 with COVID, you end up with an elevated, very elevated, sedentary heart rate. Sean's was unmedicated. He's rolling right around 110.
Wow.
And if he gets up to use he's literally sitting on a chair. If he
doing nothing.
He gets up and goes to the bathroom and comes back. He's up to 140, 150, but just for a minute, like you would be on a treadmill. But
that's just walking to the restroom.
Going to the bathroom and using the restroom is not being on a treadmill. So that's a part of it. So Sean's on a heart med that they discovered in 2020 towards that very end. And it just right down to 70s and 80s. And, of course, the O2, when he needs it, manages the other things. So it's just a matter of antifungals and time and watching him get better and get his strength back. And it's just been something, man.
You surprised me when you told me a month or so ago now that it actually was valley fever, because it went undiagnosed at first. They were just kind of treating symptoms. Once they realized what it was like that aha moment, because I didn't think of this time of year for valley fever. I think of it more of a summer thing when the dust devils kick in and the dust blows around. That's when it's more active, but apparently not so much. It's always in the soil.
And my son-in-law, because he is a trucker, educated me on another potential way to get it. He works for Kane Trucking, and they haul compost. And the compost haulers wear gloves and masks for that very reason.
Well, for a couple of reasons, I would imagine. It doesn't smell that good, so that helps mitigate that to a certain degree.
But it's valley fever is a real issue with that. And other stuff, I'm sure, but that for sure. So yeah, boy, it's been a learning curve. For 2 weeks, Colleen was there during the day, and I was there during the night. It was an interesting day. My day would end here. I'd get in the car, zoom straight over to the hospital, there all night. Get up at 7, home for an hour, shower, turn around, and do that 12 more times. That's what we did for 12 days. So you do what you do for your kids. You know how it is.
And it surprises me, as long as you've lived here, how many years now have you lived in the Valley?
We moved here in 1996.
Okay, so got me beat by 5? No? Let me think. A while. And no one up until Sean getting valley fever had ever gotten valley fever, as far as you're aware of. Maybe they had a very mild case of it.
Not in our family. We knew somebody that died from it. It was an older gentleman that smoked like a chimney, and he had other pre-existing conditions, and it got him. But that's the only other person that I knew. In fact, I learned that we both know somebody that I'll tell you, I won't even think of her name. She worked here, worked over at Spirit. Great gal.
Oh, Rachel.
Yeah, Rachel Nix. But I didn't want to rat her out. But she survived it. I was going to call her in the next few days and say, so, what have we got to look forward to here?
Well, you don't have to go far, actually, because I got valley fever before I moved here. In fact, when I first got COVID, I can kind of compared it to the symptoms I had then. Valley fever was worse for me, but not much worse. I always gauge things through sports. When I was younger, I remember my 8th grade graduation. right after the graduation, there was a baseball game. In fact, I was going to have to literally rush out of my gown. In fact, I had my uniform on underneath my garments for
Nice.
the graduation. So
I
all
would've
I had to
done
do
that.
was rip that thing off, throw the cap on my head, throw cleats on my feet, and I was ready to play. So I missed a little bit of the warm-up, but I did get there. But at one point, it was so hot in the hall where the graduation ceremony was, I almost passed out.
Sean,
It was that hot.
well, and for the first week or so, Sean would have a temperature during the day.
Okay.
And he was a sweaty mess at night. That's also a common symptom of valley fever is night sweats. And I mean
hate those.
night flipping sweats. He needed a new gown every morning. And I was just like, yeah, you gotta. That's why they keep hanging those bags up there, Sean. They're sweating it straight out, bro. And he was just, all he could do was lay there for the first week. And he's not turning cartwheels now, but at least he can get up. He went with me to he went with me. I went somewhere low key last night, and we went there. We went in, we came out. He was fine, and he wasn't on oxygen. And I can tell that we're going to get Sean back. And he's going to be Sean again.
Mm-hmm.
But we're just not there yet. And I can tell it's going to be a slow, long thing. How long did it take you to go from, holy crap, what is this, to I feel like me again?
Well, let me finish telling the story.
Fair enough. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
So I put my head down. I'm like, I don't feel good. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm going to pass out. But I told myself, but I still want to play baseball. So that's always been the gauge for me. Flash forward a few years when I had valley fever, I got it while I was asleep. Woke up with the cold sweats and everything else. I don't remember this. This is when I was dating my wife. We weren't engaged yet. And my dad and I were going to be going golfing that day. And apparently I woke up and I just kept on muttering, I don't want to golf. I don't want to golf. I don't feel like golf. The fact that I said that tells me I was in pretty bad shape. They took me to the emergency room and tested me. And again, this is in Paso Robles. So not in the San Joaquin Valley. Got valley fever there. Lived here since 2011. As far as I know, unless maybe if you get it again, you get mild cases of it. But I've never gotten it that bad ever since and never been diagnosed with it.
Well, this is not a guarantee, but any of the doctors you'll talk to will tell you if you get it and you get it good, you probably won't get it again. You
Good.
build up some sort of immunity, or you won't get it like you got it.
Okay.
I mean, Sean got it good, so if he gets it again, it'll probably I feel like crap, but well, whatever.
Now I forget, is it viral or is it bacterial?
It can be both. But
Really?
Sean's was viral.
Okay. Then
Sean was viral, and they could see the virus. They could see it. In fact, Sean went to 2 hospitals. We went to the one in Tulare first. They kicked him out a little too early, and with no O2. And his primary care provider follow-up was the next day. They literally ambulanced him from the care provider, from his doctor's office, straight to Kauai, and that began the rest of his journey. And Sean was actually in the ICU for 4 days. He crashed up on 3 South one day. I was here. Mom was there. He crashed. They had to, he desatted really bad, and they had to get him back up, and then they put him in ICU. Not because he was about to die, but the nurse to patient ratio there is very low, and that's what Sean needed. Sean needed eyes on, and so he was there 4 days. He was on what they call high flow oxygen. It's like up in your nose. It's not the cannula. It's literally.
So he wasn't intubated, which is good. I know you don't want that.
He wasn't intubated, but he
Okay.
was on high flow oxygen. It goes all the way up to 70, and Sean was on 70 for a day.
Boy.
And they brought him down, they brought him down, they brought him down, they brought him off, and then back to the regular O2, which starts at 5 liters, and then down and down and down. And so, yeah, it was. It had never even occurred to me that something could happen to Sean that could take him away from me. And we were thinking about that for a minute. And I bet your loved ones were wondering with you for a minute when you had it.
And thank goodness I didn't have to stay in the emergency room. Once they diagnosed it, and they did rather quickly, it was, okay, let's treat the symptoms. Let's see how he does. He's in pretty decent shape, good health. He should be fine. Got on whatever medication I got to treat the symptoms because, again, being viral, you can't do anything about a virus. You have to just let it run its course and let the body do what it needs to do.
But because a fungus causes it, you have to take the antifungal.
Yeah. So I did all of that stuff I needed to do, and inside of 3 or 4 days, I was at least feeling well enough that I did want to play golf again. But you and I kind of talked about it, which is why I knew it was okay bringing it up to you, that helpless feeling that you have as a parent. It's one thing if it's you being sick, because one, you feel it, you know your body well enough, what you need to do to take care of you. It's another thing when it's your child, and thank goodness my kids have not been all that sick yet. My son's been taken to Valley Children's twice, once because he swallowed a coin, and they didn't have the right type of tools at Kauai Health to remove it, so they let's be on the safe side here. We have Valley Children's. Yes, it's an ambulance right away, but we would rather him be in the best care possible here in the Valley, so he went there. And then he had his tonsils, or actually, no, his appendix shaved down and tonsils removed at one point. So,
nice. They're wonderful up there.
Yeah. So outside of that, I've not had anyone, my son or my daughter in the hospital. What was that like for you personally?
Well, it's interesting because both of us have done the St. Jude Radio Telethon.
Yeah.
And when you go there, you meet the patients and the parents. And I experienced something that I'd only talked about before. At the moment of the diagnosis, whatever that is, whether it be cancer or valley fever, whatever the serious diagnosis that causes you to wonder, my child's in trouble. The very, very first feeling you have is absolute helplessness, because I don't have a medical degree. I barely know what valley fever is. The symptoms, any of it. We're similar in this respect. I became a frickin' expert on it, sitting there in the hospital reading everything that has ever been published since 1941.
You and my wife would get along great in that regard.
Well, and ironically, everything online causes cancer, but but I learned so much about it. But it's that helplessness, because you know that you alone, as much as I've done for my son, and I've done so much for my special son to get him everything he needs to live a big, full life, I couldn't do a thing other than take him to the hospital. What a feeling. I'm driving there, getting there when the ambulance gets there. I'm me. I went right after him and got promptly thrown straight out. But I was right there at the door trying to get in, and the ambulance guy said, "Yeah, come on." And when I went in, the hospital goes, "Yeah, get out." And I had to go around and check in just like everybody else. And you're just, God, what? And Sean is very, very allergic to all NSAIDs.
What are those?
Ibuprofen.
Okay.
Toradol. Aleve.
Really?
If he takes those, he swells up like a monkey. His lips get huge. His eyes bug out, and he has trouble breathing.
Okay.
So it is anaphylactic, and so I couldn't get in and tell him right away. So I was terrified getting in there. I gave, when his son gets in there, tell him that he can't have, and I'm just being me all the way to the power of 8. And it's that helplessness, don't you think? I mean, it's frightening, because I don't know what to do other than trust the best professionals that I can find to do the do, because and stay the night in his hospital room. There's the level of my expertise. That's all I got. Just give him comfort, be there for him, because he was frightened.
Oh yeah.
And I needed to be there because I can't tell you how many times he would wake up and go, "Dad, I'm right here, bud." Okay.
And then back out. It's just that comfort of knowing you're there.
Yeah, and that's what you do. I mean, when you're dead, that's what you do. Mom was there all day, which was nifty, because all of my, you're going to love this, all of my daughters came to bat to look out after our grandson, who Colleen always watches during the day, because Colleen was at the hospital. And so everything changed. It was quite a scheduling dance, but we got through it.
Man. Well, I'm hoping and praying that, it's like you said, it's going to be a bit of a recovery period, a month or so possibly, before he's back to being 100% Sean again, hopefully just in time for baseball season.
We'll see. He's unfortunately he missed. He's going to miss his basketball tournament, which he practiced and planned for, and track starts immediately thereafter. Sean can walk to the bathroom and back and done. So he's probably not going to be doing the track either.
Yeah, that's not a track event that I'm aware of.
Yes.
They walk to the restroom.
The 20-foot gotta pee. Sign me up. Anyway, and as you get to be my age, it's more like the 20, the halfway across the house sprint. But anyway, yeah, he's going to come back, but I can just see it's going to take a minute. He was in pretty great shape because as you know, we weightlift and we do that. So he was in good shape, and I know that helped a lot. But we'll see. I've got high hopes, and God's walking through it with us, giving us peace, and I really believe it's going to turn out well.
And again, I know there are a lot of prayers going your way from people here in the building, people watching right now, and appreciate you doing that. I also want to thank those who were praying for our family with the passing of my mother-in-law. We had her visitation on Wednesday of last week. The funeral service, and then the burial, the entombment was on Thursday, and then Friday was just a day hanging out with family at now my father-in-law's house, and having family come and go and share stories and whatnot, and being reminded every once in a while what the protocols are. Because my father-in-law was born and lived, I didn't realize this, up until he was, I think, 14, he said, in an island off the island of Sicily called Maretimo. So you can actually look it up. This is tiny island. You could walk around the entire island in about 3 or 4 hours probably. There's one town on the island, and he was born and raised there until he was 14.
It's like Italian Catalina Island.
Basically, yeah. And they all were a family of fishermen, and they moved here because they had family already here. I forget the ins and outs on how that worked, but they first went to Chicago just to establish themselves. But they knew the end game was good. There's not much ocean fishing that takes place in Chicago with a Lake Michigan right there. So they were set. They moved to the Monterey Bay, Pacific Grove area. In fact, if you go there now in Monterey, there's an area called Spaghetti Hill because so many Italians settled on that hill. And that's where he was raised. I mean, that's where the house that the four of them, I think it's the four of them, grew up and fished and did everything that they could do to make a living. And again, it's not the way I would personally do things. In fact, I told my wife at one point during the visitation, I said, "Do me a favor," and I'm not asking you to promise me this now, but when we seriously talk about what I would like to see, if I could stick around, I would love to know how that works. If once you go, I would like to think my personal pet dream is that you get to stick around, whether you're going upstairs or downstairs. You get to stick around until the final ceremonies are held.
See, just to see who really comes.
Yeah, let's see what happens with this. I told her, do me a favor. And you're going to laugh at this now, but we could use a little laugh with the heaviness of what was going on. It's like, I want to be roasted.
Oh.
I like have Amy Shucklian come, and because she and I know each other fairly well, and have her. That's how I want. I want people who are there to have a good time. I don't, because I would like to think that those who took the time to get to know me, and those who I took the time to let get to know me, and I know there's sometimes a wall there, but for those who did know me, they would know that's what he would have liked. And those who didn't, get the chance to see, oh, I never really got a chance to know him as much as I would have liked to. Really, I wish we had hung out more. If this is what he wanted to give us as that little goodbye wave.
Well, that's interesting because we recently went to the funeral of the engineer that engineers this radio station, and all of his friends were there. And I saw sides of this particular man that I had never known. I was like, I didn't know that about him. Son of a gun. He was in it. And that's, I think that would be quite a show for those that only know you professionally or only knew you personally. Really, he did that in radio, or the opposite? Oh wow, he did that during baseball season or whatever. It'd just be great to get to know the complete you, if you would.
Yeah, if I get to stick around, I want to stick around to see people having fun, people laughing. I mean, I enjoy that. I'm a people watcher just by nature. I'm the type of guy outside of being here at the station and doing station events. My wife is the one who bing, bing, bing will mix around the room and everyone in the room knows her. I am more than happy being the proverbial wallflower and kind of watching things, take things in, and then kind of figure out, okay, I can talk with these handful of people. A lot of it is, I've noticed as I've gotten older, my hearing, I can't focus in on certain things. I can hear real well if there's only one or two things I'm listening for. But I get in a big room where there's conversations everywhere. I can't focus on just one or two people talking. I'm hearing every bit of noise in the building.
I have bad news for you. I'm how far ahead of you am I? I'm 67. How old are you?
55.
Yeah, I've got bad news.
It gets worse.
It gets way worse.
I
If I'm anywhere now, and it's in the vocal range, the mid range, if
Yeah,
you will.
that's it.
If it's all in the vocal range, I'm just nodding at the restaurant, and I go home later and I talk to my wife. What the hell were Kelly and Shannon talking about? I heard my name, but that was it. Or I'll have to go. I can't. I'm sorry, I can't hear you guys. Anywhere there's a lot of vocals going on, in a bar, in a restaurant. That's why when we go for Valentine's Day to the VP, I say anywhere but the bar.
Yeah,
want
because
it to
there's
be
so much
quiet.
conversation. You'll hear everything.
Yeah.
And not necessarily what you want to hear.
Understand none of it.
Yeah,
it's just a din. But yeah, I just thought I'd warn you.